Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 151.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am your host, Jay Massey. And you know what? I'm excited because one of the greatest challenges in life is to figure out how to change, how to literally become something different, be more than your background, become a person that you may not have even envisioned that you could have been from the beginning. Most importantly, you can say that, yes, certain things aren't for you. Yes, because of the way I grew up. Yes, because of X, Y, and Z. All these other things aren't possible for me. But I think today's guest is going to actually show you how that's absolutely not true. And you have a choice. Indeed, you can choose to be wealthy. In fact, today's guest is the author of the book, none other than Wealth Choice. And what I want you to do is listen to everything that he has to say, because right now we don't talk to too many business school professors who actually, get this, own a business. So help me welcome Dr. Dennis Kimbro.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I am so glad that you are here.
Everything out there in California.
Well, I hate to say this, but it's nice, like 70, 75 degrees. We're still wearing t-shirts. That's what we do out here.
Yeah, I know. Here in Atlanta, I guess winter is trying to hold on to it by the hair of its chinny chin chin. We had a little of a wintry mix, which you never get here in the Southeast, but we're all good for the wear.
That's good. That's good. Now, many people who have been listening to the show, they have an idea of where I'm going with this, especially with the first question, because I always like to find out how things get started. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. So you could, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, whatever your flavor is. The point is yesterday's superheroes, they all went around saving people from usually their own mess, changing and all this other stuff. But they all had a beginning. They had an origin story. Maybe they got bit by a spider or their planet blew up. Whatever it is, they had an origin story, and then they decided to be someone of service to others. What we want to know before we get too far into it is, before you had all of these, best-selling books, before you were teaching and influencing so many individuals, before you had the opportunity to interview so many Black multimillionaires, who is Dennis Kimbro?
Well, I was, for the longest, I was just a nondescript writer. When I got my fancy PhD degree from Northwestern, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I certainly knew what I didn't want to do. At the time, I didn't want to go the corporate route, though I was working in corporate America. I was the first Black male in the Leadership Professional Development Program at SmithKline & French Pharmaceutical. Number two, I didn't even want to teach. And what the hell do you do when you got those three letters at the end of your name? Now I'm completely fulfilled by it. But all I wanted to do, I wanted to find the answers to two questions. Question number one, why is one person rich and wealthy while another is impoverished? And question number two, why does one person succeed while another fails? And I carved out a list, about 50 individuals that I was going to meet and interview, thinking somewhere down the road this might make a nice book. And when I got through with those 50, I wrote an article. And that article was published in Success Magazine. And that article made it to the desk of W. Clement Stone, who at the time was the president of Napoleon Hill Foundation. And he called me up unknowingly, and he said, young man, we heard about you. When can you come to Chicago? I would like to meet you. And I had no idea what W. Clement Stone had in mind, but I knew one thing. I was dead broke and I was tired of living off my wife's earnings as an accountant. I had 3 children. And me and my wife agreed if he offered me a job, I was definitely going to accept it. But he offered me something better than that. He said, after I returned his phone call, 2 weeks later, me and my wife fly to Chicago. And it was during that fateful meeting, November 3rd, 1984, that he said to me, "You're not the first person to go around this country interviewing successful African Americans." And I said, "I'm not." And he said, "No." He says Napoleon Hill was doing this at the time of his death. And again, for your listeners who have no idea who Napoleon Hill was, he was by far America's most prolific self-help writer. I mean, here's a gentleman who wrote 16 books over the course of his life. And you can go to any bookstore and get the majority of those books. But at the time of his death, in 1987, he was attempting to write a black version of his all-time classic, Think and Grow Rich. He got 100 pages into the manuscript, died of a stroke, and W. Clement Stone held on to those 100 pages for 16 years, the day that I walked into his office.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. Now, there's so many principles that I think that are in there. Just the idea is that oftentimes, we want to, you said it yourself, you were looking, you said, if he offered me a job, I was going to take it, but you said he offered you something better than a job. I know one of the things necessary for most people to begin to step into the greatness that they were born to be, they have to elevate their thinking. So explain to us a little bit about what you mean when you said something better than a job, because for some, that could be their only frame of reference.
Well, everybody has a starting place, and for me, this is my starting place. But he expanded upon the idea. So many times we go through life and we talk about our circumstances and we talk about our challenges and situations. It's not your circumstances, it's your decisions, your choices that will define your destiny. The subtitle of my first book and my 5th book is Choice. Now, there are 50 million different choices that each of us, are forced to make on a daily basis. I chose what time I was going to eat lunch. I chose what I was going to eat for lunch. I chose who I was going to enjoy my lunch with. Now, 99% of those choices, they're not huge, and we don't have to address them all the time.
Right.
But there are 2 choices that you must confront day in and day out as soon as your feet hit the cold ground in the morning. Ooh. Number 1, you can accept the circumstances as they are. Or number 2, you can take the responsibility to change them. And that's what I found in all these men and women. They took the latter approach. So the odds weren't in their favor. So they didn't have the context. They didn't have the startup capital. They didn't have the education, the skill set, the background. But that wasn't going to stop them. I found 4 criteria, 4 common chords in all the men and women that I interviewed. I don't care whether it was Steve Harvey or whether it was, you name it, Tyrese Gibson, the entertainer. I don't care whether it was Kathy Hughes, one of your black billionaires, or Bob Johnson, another one of your black billionaires. Number 1, they dreamed big dreams. They had a dream, a passion, something they desperately wanted to accomplish in life. What is the greatest competitive advantage? The greatest competitive advantage is a passionate, committed mind. The passionate, committed mind cannot be defeated. If it could be defeated, there would be no Oprah Winfrey. If it could be defeated, there would be no BET, because that's what Bob Johnson used to build his enterprise. So dream big dreams. The average individual in our society gets 4 ideas a year, any one of which, if you had the guts, the courage, the fortitude to chase your dream, would make you financially independent. But what do? We get a dream, we get a vision, and the first thing we do, we dismiss it. You can't do that, because where do dreams come from? A dream comes from your creator knocking on your subconscious, asking you, do you want more out of life? You got to look at it. Your creator is the electricity, but damn it, you are the lamp. He can only do for you what you allow him to do through you. So when you get that dream and you get that vision, you hold on to it. You hold on to it and you enjoy the ride, because this journey called life is nothing but a classroom. And it's a different type of classroom. You are both the teacher and you are both the student. That's why the Bible says, be like children. Why does the Bible say be like children? Because children are creatures who seek wisdom. And you seek wisdom at any age. You can be 8 or you can be 80. You never stop seeking wisdom. So I don't care, regardless of your age, you're a child of God. So number one, they dream big dreams. Number two, they were inner directed versus outer directed. In other words, they weren't so quick to believe well-meaning friends or family members who said you can't do this, you can't do that. Got to be very particular who you associate with. As Secretary of Commerce Ron Brown said to me years ago, if you hang around 9 broke people, sooner or later you're going to be number 10. Be inner directed versus outer directed. They didn't listen to those well-meaning friends and family members. They focused on the dream. They focused on their passion. They identified their strength, what makes them different and unique. And differentiation is the key. If you live the normal life, and what is a normal life? Right. 74, 75 years on Earth. Do the calculus. That only equates to 29, 30,000 days on Earth. That's all you get. Time is not running out. But I got good news for you. I mean, your life is. So, the critical question that we have to address in this entrepreneurially driven economy is, what am I going to do with the rest of life that I have left?
Right.
Number 3, they dedicated themselves to lifelong learning. You don't go to school one period of your life. You're in school every day of your life. Life is lesson. So, I tell my business students all the time, I ask them, what book are you reading for growth and development? What conference are you going to? What seminar are you taking in? When's the last time you've been online and looking at TED Talks? When's the last time you watched the Discovery Channel? I don't care. I don't care if you got a cell phone and you have internet access on that cell phone. And I don't care what time of day you boot up, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Whatever time you boot up, there are a minimum 2 billion people online with you. Wow. Now, you can use that audience. You have 2 billion people to share your ideas, to share your product and service if you're an entrepreneur. Get on LinkedIn, share your resume, share your goals and objectives, who you want to work for, how you add value. Or you can use that audience of 2 billion to gossip. And that's what so many people do. But the fact of the matter is, you can't get around it. Readers are leaders. Take in the information. If you take the word capitalism, write it on a piece of paper. And capitalism is not a dirty word, but take the word capitalism, write it on a piece of paper, CAPITALISM. Take the Latin derivative of the word capitalism, CAPUT, kaput. What does it mean in Latin? It means head. What's the one thing you must use in order to survive in a free and open society? You must use your head. We don't live in a society that's divided between rich versus poor, or black versus white, liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, male versus female. No. But we do live in a society that is divided between dreamer versus non-dreamer. And then last but not least, these men and women flat out refuse to fail. And I'm not saying they didn't fail. Many of them actually failed their way to success. I remember when I interviewed Damon John of Shark Tank, the founder of FUBU. And I said to him, Damon, what was the high water point in your life? And he said, the high water point. Well, the high water mark of my life was when I had to burn the furniture. I said, what do you mean burn the furniture? He said, well, when I finally got, financing from Samsung to launch my apparel line, the first thing I did, I hired all these seamstresses, and they showed up at my mother's house with all their sewing machines and equipment. I had no place to put them nor their equipment. So I took all the furniture out of my mother's house, put it in the backyard, and I set it on fire. Flat out refused to fail. I asked Tyler Perry, I said, Tyler, how in the world did you go from sleeping in your car in New Orleans and sleeping in your car in Atlanta, Georgia, to building a $145 million production studio? He said to me, nothing but the grace of God. And there's Kathy Hughes of Radio One. After she bought her first radio station for 1 year, she and her son slept on the floor every night of that radio station. And that restroom down at the end of the corridor, well, that was the bathroom that they bathed in every day before they ate on a hot plate. So persistence is nothing but a level of belief in yourself. And you better have a strong dose of persistence. Those are the 4 common chords. Those are the attributes. And again, it comes back to choice. Anybody can implement them.
Now, I am overly excited right now, to say the least. And I can get why and hear that you have an incredible amount of passion for just sharing this information. And right now, I'm like, one of the thoughts, and many people know this, one of the thoughts that's going through my head is like, man, if there were more educators like you in our educational system, I'm like, dude, I think I might have even stayed in college a little bit longer.
But that's a misnomer. You got them all out there, but the student has to be ready. When the student is ready, the teacher appears, because you can learn from anybody. My mother was a nanny. My mother had a 7th grade education. And when she would read the newspaper, she had a pen or pencil in hand. Any word she didn't understand, she would circle it and go look it up. But here I got a degree from one of the top institutions in the nation, but my mother corrected my English. So you can learn from anybody, my brother.
And that's one of the things that I've learned to enjoy, especially with the proliferation of information these days. I mean, it's anywhere. Like you were saying, there's 2 billion people online at any time, and there's always a time where you can be learning and consuming more information, and that's one of the things that I appreciate about technology is how accessible all of those things are. Now, question, in those 4 things, and because there's something that I know many people come to me and ask, Jay, how do I get started in real estate? How did this and how did that? And those 4 things you just outlined, never once, and I found it interesting and I got to hear what you have to say. Never once did you say that they were specifically chasing some sort of dollar amount in any way, shape, or form. They weren't just trying to make more money.
The dollar amount.
What's that?
It's the vision.
Yeah.
When the vision is clear, nothing else matters. See with your mind's eye, because your physical eye will lie to you. All right, you're out there in California, sunny California, go to Long Beach and look across the Pacific Ocean. And you might say, gee, Dennis, it looks like the sky and the water meet. But the sky and the water never meet. That's a sign of your physical eye lying to you, because if the sky and the water met, there'd be no such thing as gravity. If you stood on railroad tracks and you looked down the train tracks, you would say, man, it looks like these train tracks are coming together. Well, the train tracks never come together. Otherwise, the train would fall off the tracks. Again, that's an example of your physical eye lying to you. So it's not the money, it's the dream and the vision. When the dream and the vision is clear, people will be added to you if you need people.
Yep.
Money will be added to you if you need money.
Yep.
Resources will be added to you if you need resources. So no, it's not that. Here's a $20 bill that I'm pulling out of my pocket. And I wish I could hand this to you electronically, but I want you to take this $20 bill. Yeah. And I want you to go into your grocery store there in Southern California, and I want you to get me $5 worth of scarcity. I want you to get me $10 worth of lack, and I want you to get me another $5 worth of hopelessness. And you will come back and say, Dr. K, you can't buy that. They don't sell that. It doesn't exist. And I said, no, it does exist. And where does it exist? It exists in your mind. Yeah. You better go back and read Romans 8:32. And what does Romans 8:32 say? The truth shall be free, and you shall know the truth. But what is the truth? The truth is that you need or lack anything.
Yeah.
You got all and everything that you need. Booker T. Washington said, start where you are. Yep. With what you have, knowing that what you have is plenty enough.
Oh,
and
my God.
Go right over to Morehouse College, and you got, Dr. Benjamin Mays. What did he tell Martin Luther King in 1944 when a 15-year-old Martin Luther King was going to be a freshman in his fall class in 1944? He told him, he says, not reaching your goals is not the sin. He says, low aim is the sin. That's the problem. And we got so many people where their vision, where their goals are so low, we trip over it. That's the problem.
You're speaking my language right now, because that's one of the things I can remember back to when I was first getting started. I had set what I thought was, and keywords here is what I thought was, a large goal that was going to take literally 10 years. I had said it was going to take 10 years to get to 100 units. And because, I didn't have a frame of reference, but that's what I thought. First of all, it took work to even get the words 100 units out of my mouth, as if like that was going to happen. But here's the question. When 2 things I have found to be true, at least from my perspective, limited though it is that 1, many of us have lost that skill set of how do we even begin to dream again? Because we used to, we forgot. And then secondly, I know what happened for myself and my wife is we surprised ourselves. What we thought was going to take 10 years took about 2.5, and it's just continued from that point forward. So I would love to hear your thoughts on both of those things, how to dream again and what to do once you surprise yourself with your ability to accomplish.
Okay, you got to find your area of excellence. And there's 3 questions in order for you to identify your area of excellence. Number 1, what do I love to do? What do I have a passion for? What can I throw my whole heart and soul into? Question number 2, what would I do for free? If no one ever gave me a dime, if no one ever gave me a financial reward for my efforts, what would I do for free? Because when you're doing what you love to do and you would do it for free, your work is your play. And if your work is your play, you'll never work a day in your life. And then question number 3, identify, what is your area of unfair competitive advantage? To borrow from Michael Porter, who teaches at Harvard. I got 3 daughters, and all of them have different areas of unfair competitive advantage. What is your strength? Where will you win? What is your home field advantage? When you answer these 3 questions openly and honestly, and identify the one thing that you do better than anybody else, you never have to worry about income and you never have to worry about employment. Why? The marketplace will seek you out. Everybody wants to be associated with the best.
Indeed. Now, you said something earlier that I really would love to hear more about because I've never heard anybody mention it. And the fact is, you said that the average person has approximately 4 ideas a year that they could use to take them on to, greater heights and whatnot. I've got to understand more about that because I feel like I'm inundated with ideas every day personally, but I'm trying to figure out how do you know which 4 it is?
Are you tired of letting good cash flow generating ideas go to waste? Go to CashFlowDiary.com/ready to apply for a complimentary, yes, that means free, one-on-one breakthrough session. Take action now. Go to CashFlowDiary.com/ready. Again, that's CashFlowDiary.com/ready. Before we get back to today's episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, your host Jay Massey has some important insights to share with you.
If you've been listening to this, you know that right about now, you just want to get right back to listening to it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Let you get right back to listening to it.
Well, going back to the interview that I had with Damon John, I asked him, what is the skill set most needed today? And he said, innovation and creativity. And I'll get to your question in a second. What is creativity? Creativity is the ability to come up with an idea. When I was in the shower this morning before I came to school, I got 50 million different ideas in the shower. Right. Sometimes when I'm sitting here grading papers, looking out the window in my office, I get more ideas. So today you need creativity. You need the ability to come up with ideas, but you also need innovation. And what is innovation? Innovation is the ability to execute that idea. You see, anybody can come up with an idea. Anybody can see a trend. You come to Atlanta, Georgia, and together we can walk hand in hand, arm in arm down Peachtree Street, and you could see the clothing that people are wearing, the cars that they're driving, the accessory that the ladies have having, the purses, this, that, and everything. Well, those are trends. That's part of our pop culture and our fad. Anybody can see a trend, but you got to be able to innovate. And what is innovate? You got to be able to seize a trend. What Damon John was talking about, it's okay to be able to see down the street, to see what's going on down the street. But in today's business environment, you got to be able to see around the corner. If you wanted to go ahead and bring an end to poverty, and particularly here in the Black community, there's only 2 things you got to do. Number 1, you got to get the naysayers, you got to get the non-achievers, the underbelievers, the chronic complainers, the toxic people, get them out of the room. Tell them goodbye. I don't know where you're going, but you're going to get the hell out of here. I did not say don't love them. We are here for one reason and one reason only, to be a function of God, to extend God's love. We are told in the Bible to gain dominion. How in the world do you gain dominion? By loving, by extending his love. So you give them some love, but brother, you still getting the hell out of here. I'm sorry. I can't take it any longer. I got to move on. You are dragging me down. You are a drain on our resources. Then number 2, after you've cleared the playing field, You got to find a way to get a notebook, laptop, computer in the hands, under the arms of every Black elementary school child in this country. Now, why must you do that? Because when that child boots up, that's where the new ideas are coming from. Soon as they boot up, here the inhibitions, ideas begin to flow. It goes back to what Steve Jobs had in that commercial in 2007. Here to the misfits. Here to the troublemakers. Here to the square pegs in the round holes. Here to all the folks that said would never do anything, be anything. Here to all the folks that colored outside the box. That's what Steve Jobs is talking to. But if you give that child that notebook, laptop, computer, and let them go online and let those ideas flourish without getting the naysayers and the non-believers and the underachievers out of the room, what's going to happen? They're going to steal their dream. They're going to get an idea. They're going to run to that individual. Girl, there you go with those crazy ideas. I told you not to mess with that computer. Or, nope, somebody tried that last year and they lost the shirt. You're going to lose a lot of money. No, we are here to nurture each other. If I be lifted up, I draw all men unto me. Well, what was the master talking about? Well, Henry Ford, if you come up with that Model T and that Model A car, wait till Lamborghini gets his hands on it. Wilbur and Albright, 2003, December 17th, there you are. You were the first aircraft, the first plane. But wait to, you wait to Delta Airlines or wait to, Virgin Atlantic or wait till Singapore Air gets their hands on it. That's what you got to do. You got to get an environment where ideas can flow. And what we don't do as a race, we inhibit that. We don't put our wealth creators on a pedestal. You come to my office, my home office, my writing studio, and you'll notice on one of my walls, I got a flat screen TV, and I'll put the remote control in your hand. And you go ahead and you begin to channel surf. And you might find, a number of wealth creators being interviewed. You might find Phil Knight of Nike Shoes being interviewed. You might find an old interview of Steve Jobs. You might find Howard Schultz of Starbucks being interviewed. You might find Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn being interviewed. You might find an interview of Chad Hurley of YouTube. But when's the last time you've seen any of your wealth creators being interviewed? Right. Do you even know your 6 Black billionaires? And if you don't know, well, damn it, I need to know why you don't know. Because that is the problem. Why is that critically important? Because Ben Carson, the neurosurgeon, told me more than 15 years ago, what thou seest, that thou beest. What are the words? What are the pictures? What are the images that successful men and women look at or view? They think of dreams. They think of prosperity. They think about going somewhere. They think about the 2 words, I can. What are the words, pictures, and images going through the mind of the unsuccessful person? They think about lack. They think about scarcity. They think about, oh, woe is me. They think about, man, I'm so glad I didn't do that. I might lose my shirt. All you got to do is change the data on the diskettes. We are a mental being. That's the bottom line. Don't worry about changing the world. Change your thoughts first. The greatest gift you've ever been given by your creator is the ability to change your mind.
Absolutely. And that was, I know that was critical for myself and my wife. And it was, well, when you talk about getting rid of the naysayers, occasionally those naysayers are related to you. And that can be a challenge, for some, and if not for all, some way, shape, or form. And what would you say I know for me, one of the things that you just said, and I'll just openly admit, I don't know who the 6 Black billionaires are. I have no clue. And I'll tell everybody. But, at the same time, I know that skill set is the very skill set that's going to help me get to know who they are. And because if I don't say it now, it doesn't get said, and I got to go find out. Okay, cool. Now I'm on this new path. The second thing that I find that's very, very helpful is to be around people that are going in the direction that I want it to go. And I know for myself, it's been, I live in Orange County, and it's no secret. It's less than 2% African-American. Literally in the zip code that I live in, when my family moved in, we moved the needle in terms of the number of percentage of African-Americans in my zip code, simply because there's that few. So when someone of color is looking to find that that networking group or that peer group or the people who are striving, well, one, please tell us who the six are so that we can all know. And then how do we go about getting around those individuals?
Okay, well, you got Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
You got Kathy Hughes, Radio One.
Okay.
You got Dave Stewart, Worldwide Telecom. You got Bob Johnson, BET. You got Quentin Primo, the real estate developer in Chicago. And you got Michael Jordan. That's the problem. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm discussing. I mean, look at you. And here's the thing, man. And I'm not knocking the NAACP. I know they got a different agenda. But they're only concentrated on two things. And they just, I know that W.E.B. Du Bois, one of the founders of the NAACP, is rolling in his grave. Why? Du Bois and Martin Luther King were barely on speaking terms because W.E.B. Du Bois didn't think that King was pushing economic development enough. And now look at his organization, NAACP. The only thing NAACP cares about, are you going to the movies? And are you walking the red carpet? That is it. That's all they care about. Image award to all these damn reality shows. That's the bottom line. And Du Bois wasn't about that. You go get W.E.B. Du Bois' seminal work, The Negro in Business. You read the first 30 pages. And what does he say in that book? He says the man or woman who won't control his finances won't control anything else. Then number two, he says, nothing positive will ever occur in a community that fails to circulate its dollars. Did you hear what I said?
I did.
Nothing positive will ever occur in a community that fails to circulate its dollars. So the average dollar in the Jewish community stays there for 17 hours. The average dollar in the Asian community in the Jewish community stays there for 17 days. The average dollar in the Asian community stays there for 24 days. The average dollar in the East Indian community stays there for 45 days, where the average dollar in the Black community stays there for 6 hours. Why? Because we don't produce enough Black entrepreneurs to absorb our income. And I like to use GDP. Everybody talking about GNP when they talk about buying habits and consumer behavior. But with the Black community, you got to use GDP. You got to use gross domestic product. And what is gross domestic product? It's the aggregate, the sum total of income. And why is it necessary to go ahead and use that with the Black community? Because we are the only race, we are the only ethnic group, we are the only culture that will rob Peter to pay Paul. You doubt me? All right, you have your money set aside to make your car payment, and you're going to make the car payment, but let Beyonce come to town. You ain't going to miss that. Not only will you buy front row Beyonce tickets, you got to get a new outfit. You got to get your hairstyle. And where are you going to get that money from? You don't care if it's disposable income or not. You'll rob Peter to pay Paul. You got your money set aside for that light bill. You got your money set aside for that water bill. But the Super Bowl is coming up and you want that flat screen. You don't care if it's disposable money income. You're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. We are the only ethnic group that does that. So in order, you know what our GDP is? $1.7 trillion. We are 1/10. We're 13% of the population. We are 1/10 of the whole economy of the United States. But we don't produce enough Black entrepreneurs to absorb that 1.7 trillion. Now, you're a man of the world. Look at other countries who have a similar GDP. 1.7 trillion. You got countries with a GDP of 1.7 trillion. And those countries that have that GDP comparable to Black America, they have an aviation sector. They have a whole manufacturing sector. They've got an automobile sector. You should see their schools and their institutions, the educational institutions that they produce. And look at our 90 Black HBCUs, all of them dropping out like flies. And it all goes back to what your leader said in that book. Nothing positive will ever come out of a community that fails to circulate its dollars.
And Okay, so then you're fundamentally making the argument that, financial intelligence, education, and most importantly, something as simple as behavioral discipline is at the root core that's not trained from the beginning. That's what I'm hearing.
What does the Bible say? The Bible says, complete thy noble task. Well, what does the Bible mean when it says complete thy noble task? It means at least show up, at least try. Man, at least shine your shoes. Go get a suit that fits. Man, go update your resume. Go pursue that business opportunity. Hey, you might make a buck, and we don't even do that. We don't even try. Hell, you got less than 1 million black entrepreneurs. We got so many African Americans who won't even consider entrepreneurship as a viable career option. You might make $1. Hell, just go ahead. You got that idea. Just take the next step in the process.
And I hear you, but I'm just going to speak for my own. That was not an easy jump to even get to the point to where just the term, the concept of having wealth meant, and then going, oh, that's also for me too. And it was okay to pursue those types of things and actually find the team and the people to make all of those things happen. For someone who might be having that struggle, how would you suggest they begin to overcome those things?
Hey, listen, to go ahead and paraphrase President Clinton, I feel your pain. I know all about entrepreneurship. The definition of entrepreneurship is pursuit of an opportunity without any regard to the resources at hand. And what do we know about entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is pain-inducing. It's wrenching.
You can repeat that again.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is built on inconvenience. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But the good news is it's easier than failing. Never do it for the paycheck. Do it for the passion. Like I said, the greatest advantage is a passionate, committed mind. Do it because you love to do it. Love is the bottom line. Money is not the bottom line. Love is the bottom line. What is it that you love to do? When you love your customers, you're going to be given more customers. When you love your coworkers, you're going to be made manager in no time. If you love your job, you're getting the parking space closest to the facility. It all goes back to love. What is it that you love to do? You're only here for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. Number 1, find your calling. And number 2, give of yourself in service to God. I don't care if you're holding a little street sign saying, I work for food, and you're homeless in the street. You got the same advantage of Bill Gates. You got the same advantage of Oprah Winfrey. Why? Because anybody can wow the customer. Anybody can do more than what is expected, more than what is required. Anybody can go the extra mile. Anybody can serve with passion and authority. Yeah. That's what's meant by entrepreneurship. Serving. Q plus MA equals C. The quality of your service plus the quantity of your service plus the mental attitude in which it is rendered always equals compensation. People will make you rich or people will make you poor depending upon how well you serve them.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean by entrepreneurship.
Got it. Now, in your latest book, The Wealth Choice, I'm curious. I'm intrigued by the title because I just like the fact that it is a choice. As you were alluding to in the beginning, with the choices that we get to make every morning, i.e. taking responsibility to necessarily change the circumstances if that's what you must do. I'm curious to know what inspired you to want to write this particular book.
Well, that was just an offspring from all my works. I mean, when you look at Think and Grow Rich, Your Black Choice, and you look at the What Makes the Great Great, this was the latest stop on the tour. This was the latest mile marker. I had interviewed everybody from your top doctors, top school teachers, top lawyers, top this, top that, even top entrepreneurs. But I never homed in on your millionaires. Right now, there are 35,000 black millionaires in the United States. When Martin Luther King led the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955, you had only 5 black millionaires in the U.S. And I was blessed enough to interview 3 of the 5, and I shared their story in Think and Grow Rich, Your Black Choice. Well, today, you have 35,000 black millionaires and 6 black billionaires in the United States. And I know over a 7-year period between the focus groups that I held between the surveys that I used and the 60 one-on-one interviews that I had over a 7-year period. I rubbed shoulders with minimum 1,000 Black millionaires. So whatever data that you have in the wealth choice, whatever I have in the wealth choice, is statistically significant. So it was the latest mile marker, and it was the first of its type for this type of audience.
Got it. Now, for those that might be, interested, what would be, in your opinion, they're listening, they're thinking about, man, I would love to cross that line, become that entrepreneur, take extra steps and risks, and
be very particular where you are by age 30.
Oh,
I had a survey. I used a 118 question survey that I gave to these millionaires. And one of the questions, the survey was divided into 4 different segments. Number 1, demographics. Number 2, investment advice. Number 3, consumer behavior. And number 4, success factors. One of the questions I asked, I said, how old were you when you crossed, that 6-figure barrier? In other words, how old were you when you earned 6 figures? I'm trying to get my data right. How old were you when you earned 6 figures? In other words, when you earned $100,000 or more. And it came back 99.9% of the time, age 30. So whatever you're doing right now, I don't care if you're 30 years or younger and you will earn $100,000, don't let me confuse you. No need to listen to me. Keep doing what you're doing, because it'll only be a matter of time when you make it to 7 figures. So the converse of that is equal to, be very particular where you are by age 30, because if you're not careful, you might be there for the rest of your life.
Okay. Now, what about the person who might be a little bit older than that?
Oh, I mean, that's, some of these folks are late bloomers. Some of them got their early start. But the fact of the matter is, I found 7 best practices, what I call the 7 laws of wealth, that these men and women, if they don't incorporate on a daily basis, they certainly do it weekly and they do it monthly. And I see we're pressed up against time. So,
right.
I mean, the first is the most simplistic. Prosperity begins in the mind, but ends in the purse. The key is knowledge. Take in the information, read the books, go to the seminar, even think of yourself worthy of success, worthy of earning, this millionaire status. But number 2, you got to make a decision that you won't be poor. I told you there are 6 Black billionaires in the United States, but if it weren't for the 07-08 recession, there were at least 10 other individuals, if it weren't for this latest recession, who were on par to join billionaire status. And one of them is out there in the San Francisco area by the name of Victor McFarlane. He has his own real estate development company. And he was born and raised the child of a single parent, born in Middletown, Ohio, which is a blue-collar working class community. And he lived with his mother and his older sister, and they had a 1-bedroom apartment that they lived in, and that one bedroom was for his mother. Well, in the foyer area to the apartment was a couch, and at night they would let the couch out. And for the first 12 years of his life, Victor McFarlane and his older sister slept on that couch. And when he shared that with me, I was somewhat sympathetic. I said, damn, Victor, that had to be tough. He cut me off at the knees. He didn't want any sympathy, no empathy. He said, Doc, no, I don't want any sympathy. As I look back on it, that was probably the best 12 years of my life. I said, why was that important to you? He said, it was during that 12-year period that I made the conscious decision that I would not be poor.
Yeah.
Make the decision early, up front. And like I said, it's your decisions that will define your destiny.
Absolutely. So for those looking for more information from you, what would be the best way for them to track you down?
Listen, I'm an open book. You can hit me up on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can go to www.denniskimbro.com. You can hit me up on Twitter. Go get my books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Like I said, I've written 2 books, 2 of them bestsellers. This latest book, The Wealth Choice, currently is the #1 business book in Black America right now. So I'm blessed and I'm eternally grateful.
And you know what? Now we are as well. And I definitely appreciate you investing the time here with the Cashflow Diary audience. Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you. Take care. God bless.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean today? I can't even begin to tell you. You got so much homework from this particular episode, between looking up people, between making sure they get out of here to making sure that you go over and find all of the books that were mentioned, to make sure that you go and find, I mean, man, there's everything. I mean, you've got the Negro in business, you've got the wealth choice, you've got all of this information from this particular episode. You're going to be on this homework assignment until the next episode for sure. Well, it's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Until next time.